Because the kick drum is the dominant rhythmic element in so many dance mixes, it can be easy for the snare to become lost in the mix, masked by the louder and often frequency-rich kick drum. Several techniques can help retain its identity. First, use a EQ to roll away on when it lows in the snare. This reduces the low-end overlap, giving a clearer identity to both the kick and the snare. To find an appropriate cut point, set up a sloping filter to cut around 80 Hz, then slowly raise it until you start hearing an obvious weakening in the snare's low-end energy. At that point, back down by 5 to 10 Hz. Many snares benefit from a sloping cut at around 100 to 125 Hz. Go higher when the snare is twinned with a dominant frequency-rich kick drum. Identify where the snare delivers the bulk of its energy, usually between the 120 and 350 body zone. Then dial in a 2 to 3 decibel notch EQ cut in the kicks at that same spot. This allows the snare to poke through even the most dominant kick. The third way is shifting the timing of the snare drum. If both the kick and snare hit at exactly the same time, there's a lot of transient information arriving at once. To temper that united blow, ease the snare backwards or forwards by a few milliseconds so that the two sounds and their critical transients arrive separately. Even the briefest difference is enough to help the ear identify the two sounds as distinct. You can alter the transients of either the kick, snare, or both. Because so much energy is contained in the opening hit transients of a drum, emphasizing or dampening them can alter the sound's definition in the mix. So if your kick has a ton of explosive front-end energy, twin it with a smoother entry snare and vice versa. Use a transient designer or compressor to give a snare a distinct treatment that works to complement the kick. Of course, a clearly defined snare drum may not be what you want. In some tracks, the snare is meant to do nothing more than blend in, almost subliminally, to the kicks on beat 2 and 4. If that's the case, then the above approaches can be reversed to create a homogeneous kick-snare layer. Send both sounds to the same bus for added sonic glue. Although using a snare spreader or similar to widen a snare should be avoided if you want a solid, weighty, punchy snare, as widening diffuses energy across the stereo field, it can usefully aid in separation in snare layers. In such cases, one snare is usually left in mono in the center of the mix with the second, often crispier snare, receiving additional width.